Hi, everybody. I'm back. I'm jumping back in. Again, having some technical difficulties with my phones. All right. So I'm going to jump back in this whole thing of under man's authority, under God's authority, and a Catholic lesson here. So here we go. Here, coming back to this story. So, bottom line is, as a young girl at Catholic school, I witnessed who was under the discipline and the authority of the school and who was being obedient and who was being rebellious. So I started to see at a young age that there were consequences to the behavior of people who were rebellious. So, for example, these girls that were, hiking up their hems into their thighs were getting detention. They were the same girls that were mocking other students and getting reprimanded and again getting detention. They were the same girls that weren't doing their homework. In terms of boys, because it was a co-ed school, the boys that were rebellious, they were teasing the girls all the time and again not doing their homework, being disobedient to authority, whether that was nuns or teachers or priests or the principal. There was rebellion, which was evident. And I knew that being brought up in the family that I was brought up in, my father was the head of our family. And, it was like, this is the way that it is. This is the way that we handle things. And no, you're not going to do that. And you're going to do this. And my mom was very godly woman, very prayerful woman. And again, it was like there were consequences if we didn't do what we were told. We were to honor our mother and father, and I did, my brother did, we did. We were good kids that followed the rules and were obedient. So when I witnessed that other people were not under that authority, sometimes it came in unusual ways. I'll give you an example. So I had a very good friend at the time. She was one of my best friends, and her name was Becky. And Becky was, like, I'd say she was a attention-seeking person, whereas I was more, like, quiet and reserved. And she was, like, fun, so she was always trying to get you to have fun. And, with my parents, it was like my mom wanted to know who the parents were and what kind of family they what kind of life they lived. And so my mom was like, you can come over to our house and play. But it was very few households that I was allowed to go over to their household. And Becky's mom was a very religious mother, and she appeared again as, someone who was for God and under God, and she was very active in the church doing volunteer work. And my mom saw that, and so my mom was like, okay, I can go over Becky's house. Now, here's what I mean, and I'm using this story. This is a story that I was remembering today about, obedience and being under someone's authority. So when I'm in my household, my mom was very like portion control, and we didn't overeat. There wasn't excess. There were rules to having candy and snacks and cookies. Most of the things in our household were homemade. My mom baked and made our own cookies and cakes and stuff and bread. And so it was not like there was this huge abundance of junk food in the house. There just wasn't at this time period of our life. And so it was like I was already disciplined in my own family, like, this is the correct portion and don't go outside of that. And so now I'm at Becky's house, and her mom, was more of a busy mom doing work and volunteer work. So she wasn't always at home. But when I arrived there, she would be there. My mom would like meet her mom and they'd talk a little bit. And she might be there for a couple hours, but then if she was going to do her grocery shopping or volunteer work or whatever, Becky and I will be left in the house with Becky's 3 older brothers. And so what I noticed was, again, in Becky's household, her mom, when she left, she gave the rules like, Becky and Ann, you can each have 1 snack and you can each have 2 sodas, but that's it. and, Becky, I'm trusting that you're gonna, do the right thing, right? And again, because I was already disciplined within my own family, if I heard Becky's mother say, you're only allowed to have one snack and two sodas, like, I'm okay with that. I'm not trying to get more than that. I think that that's fine, right? Because I trust the judgment and I honor my own parents. So I'm like, okay, I'll honor Becky's parents, right? Well, Becky was not like that. So as soon as her mom left, Becky would like, we had already gotten our one portion of a snack and two sodas, right? But it was like after Becky's mom left, Becky would go up into the kitchen and she would get 3 additional snacks for herself. So she was overeating, and then she would offer it to me and I'd be like, "No, thanks." And she'd be like, "What's wrong with you? Don't you like candy?" And I'm like, "Don't you like this?" And I'm like, "I'm just not hungry." Like, I had already been disciplined about what was a proper portion, so I wasn't, like, into wanting what she was offering, okay? Now, as a child, that was going to a Catholic school where I wore a uniform all the time, again, I was disciplined in that pattern, and I didn't think about it. I just put on the uniform, I wore the uniform. When I got home from school, in our household, it was like, you have to do your homework first before you play. Now, I know that sounds like ridiculous. You just spend hours at school. And, in our household, it was like you come home from school, you're allowed to get a snack, some juice and cookies. And then after that, you need to do your homework immediately and get it done. And after you get your homework done, then you can go outside and play. Then you can go call your friends. But you have to get your homework done first. And again, because I was already disciplined in that, that's what I honored in my household with my parents, being the authority over that. So that's what I did. And now I'm at Becky's house, and it's like, oh, I forgot one more thing about the clothing. So when we got home from school and we wore a uniform all day, it was like my mom was like, "Go change your clothes." So it was like you have to keep this uniform looking, tidy, and if it needed to be cleaned again and we only had so many uniforms, she needed to wash it again. So it was like, again, we were in a routine of like, oh, okay, we get home, we take our clothes off, we give the, uniform clothes to mom so she can wash them, so we have another set of clean clothes for the next day. And meanwhile, we're putting on shorts and jeans and a t-shirt, and pretty much like that's it. It wasn't like we had any fancy clothes. It was just like you put on jeans and a t-shirt, right? And most of the time you're wearing tennis shoes. That was pretty much it for play. So when I went to Becky's house, it was like her mom's not there, so there's no adult authority in the household at this time, whereas I would have had my mom be at home with us. And then she's got her older brothers there, and you hear loud rock music playing, you hear, MTV video playing loud, and, they have their friends over, there's all this different noise, there's commotion, there's other people in the house, so I'm not used to any of these things. I'm just used to mom, dad, me and my brother, order, discipline, do your homework, change in your clothes. You can go outside and ride your bike, or, climb a tree or whatever, read a book, but play Barbies, whatever. But it's like there was an order to things. And then I'm at Becky's house, and even though her mom was this disciplined mom and she gave the orders, she wasn't enforcing the orders because she wasn't present. And so then what I witnessed was you could get away with things, And so here's Becky going, I'm taking 3 snacks instead of 1. And then we go into Becky's room and she's like, "Here, Anne, try on this." And again, like, we get home from school and we're wearing our uniforms. And normally, again, if my mom knew that I was going over Becky's, my mom would have already packed a bag with a pair of jeans and a t-shirt for me. So it's not like I didn't have anything to change into. This is where I'm saying that I had this simple, disciplined life, and my friend Becky is like, "Oh, you don't have to wear that. Here, let's find something in my closet for you." Now, again, for me, I was in more of a like poor middle school family that, we didn't have a lot of extra money. So it was like, I had the basic necessities, but it wasn't like I had this super abundance of, fashion, trendy clothing or anything like that. And so I go to Becky's house and she has this huge closet and all of these clothes, overflowing from her dresser, and now it's like this fashion show that Becky wants to dress me up like a doll, and she's like, try this on and try this on. And, you know, to be honest, I was like kind of excited by this, like, wow, look at all these choices. And wow, that blouse has all these ruffles on it and buttons. And wow, I've never tried on anything like that before. So, in a way, it was like, wow, look at all this abundance. And this is really pretty. I don't have things like this that are this expensive or different or artsy. And so Becky would dress me up in these, more like frilly, outfits or whatever. And sometimes she would be like, here, wear this shorter skirt. And I'd be like, I don't really feel comfortable in this. Like, I want something longer. Well, you look really good. Just trust me. And so again, I was in this uncomfortable, like trying something different, but it felt like it wasn't me. And then, of course, Becky would be like, hey, we're going to go meet my friend Diane and we're going to go take a walk and we're going to go talk to some boys. And again, like that was not my focus. It was like, I get home from school, I eat a snack, and I do my homework. And Becky's talking about not doing her homework and going to dress up in fancy clothes and now go talk to boys. And again, this was so opposite of what I was used to in my family. So I'm like resisting, but yet intrigued because I didn't know what that lifestyle was like because my lifestyle was very different. So, I'm wearing this uncomfortable, strange outfit that Becky put me in, which by today's standards, it would be like too sexy for my preference, right? And too like flashy and loud with lots of colors and stuff that wouldn't have been like what I really preferred. And so now I'm walking with Becky and Diane and we're going to talk to some boys and we're like going to the store, to get pizza, or we're, sitting outside talking to a bunch of boys. And again, this was just like not like I felt uncomfortable and I was like the quiet one in this at this time in my life. And the point is that Becky was like the doorway to rebellion. And she was, the next thing I know, it was like she was smoking and Diane was smoking and they were encouraging me to smoke. And I didn't want to. So I was like, no, I'm not really interested. And they're like, you're not going to be cool unless you are like us. And, they're like, doesn't your dad smoke? Why don't you grab a pack of cigarettes from him? And they didn't say steal. They said grab a pack of cigarettes from him. And again, I really didn't want to, but they're like, I'll give you this really cool outfit that you like, that you look really pretty in, if you grab a pack of cigarettes from your dad. And again, at the moment, I didn't understand that I was being, deceived and kind of like pulled into that. And I listened and I was like, snuck and grabbed a pack of cigarettes from my dad and then brought it to Becky's house. And the point is, I wasn't really interested in smoking. I wasn't interested in going down that path. But it was like I was being accepted into this quote cool crowd because of what, of me bringing the cigarettes, right? And then again, I didn't go to the store and buy them. I was taking them from my father. And then, they would be like, oh, Anne's cool because I brought it. And then they'd be, don't you want one? I'd be like, oh, I had some earlier. And again, now I'm lying that I had cigarettes earlier when I didn't have any cigarettes, But the point is that, I started to get involved where they're now like, you need to, hem up your skirt shorter because you're part of our cool crowd, and you need to slouch your socks down because, you're part of our cool crowd. And again, these little things, you don't think it's a big deal because they would, encourage you, like, it's not a big deal. I mean, you're still wearing your socks. Just push them down a little bit. It's not like you have to have them all the way up to your knee. They just tell you that you have to wear the socks. It's like this little points of deception. And, the next thing I know, I'm getting reprimanded, like, and pull up your socks. And of course, when I'm reprimanded, I immediately pull up my socks. I don't want to get in trouble, and then it's like, is your hem on your skirt the correct length? Why don't you go home tonight and make sure that your mom measures it to this many inches, And then I'd be like, I don't want to get in trouble anymore. And so I'm then letting out that hem that, Becky had sewed on my skirt. You get what I'm saying? Like, it's like, I didn't want to be a part of the bad girl crowd. But the point of the matter is that in terms of this whole under authority, I want to, again, emphasize that in my own family, it was like we were under God, under Jesus, under my father, under my mother, and in obedience with what the rules were, what was expected, and we were going to do, and be disciplined that you wear your uniform this way, you do your homework right after school and get a snack, and then you can play. And then when I was exposed to somebody else's family dynamic and, I saw that there was more freedom, if you will, or more free will being enacted, at first it seemed exciting and different and, but over time it was like there were so many things that over time just added up. And then I remember, because Becky's mom was this religious woman who did all this volunteer work, and my mom's thinking that Becky's mom is there all the time, I'm being allowed all these extra privileges with Becky and her family and her older brothers. And now I'm going to, Towson Catholic for high school. And, Becky's older brother is driving us to school. And again, they're all smoking in the little VW Bug, and they're smoking pot. And I'm just like being exposed to all of this. And I don't want to participate. I'm not participating, but I'm in it and I don't know how to get out of it. And I'm afraid that if I tell my parents that I'm going to get in more trouble. So I'm just like sucking it up and going, okay, I this won't last that much longer. So what I'm getting at is all of these things can add up. And then the next thing you know, it's like people are perceiving me as someone who smokes, and people are perceiving me as someone who does drugs, and people are perceiving me that, I'm going to be doing sexual things that I'm not participating in, but they assume that I am because of Becky and Diane. And they assume that if I hang out with these people that I am like them when I'm not. And so they were really encouraging me to like meet with certain boys, and certain boys were starting to give me gifts, and then they were starting like little pieces of jewelry or candy or whatever at school, and these girls in this little club or whatever, it's like they're encouraging me like, oh, go talk to that guy William, he really likes you, he got you this present, and it's like you see the present, it's a little like heart necklace, and I'm like, oh, that's so cute. And even though you like the gift, like there's this expectation now that like this guy has some hold over you. And we're talking like 4th or 6th grade or something. It's, and I'm just like, I don't want that expectation of that guy thinking that I have to hold his hand or that he has, an opportunity to get his way with me. I was like, no. And so it was like when it came to like the really important things, I found a way to stand up and have a voice, even though I felt scared, to voice my opinion. But I saw how, over time it was like, Becky would use our friendship as like, aren't you my friend? Don't you want to be my friend? Then you'll do what I say because you're in our group, And there was this is like all the things that we fight and have to learn to say yes and no to as we're growing up. So anyway, what I'm getting at is I thought that that was appropriate to talk about, because when we truly are under God, Lord God's authority, and then we're under his son, Jesus Yeshua's authority, and then we're under our parents' authority as mom and dad, honoring mom and dad, with the 10 Commandments, that we're honoring their authority over us as children, then there's a certain level of discipline and respect and obeying and just honoring that our parents know what's best for us. And when we go to school and it's a Catholic school and there's the authority of the school and the principal and the priests and, there's this authority there, and, and again, the nuns and the teachers, it's like, I'm under their authority. I'm going to do what I'm supposed to do. I'm not trying to make waves here. I'm going to be obedient, right? And then as we grow older and we start to see that other people are not submitted under the authority of the Lord God. They're not submitted under the authority of Jesus Yeshua. They're not submitted to the authority under their own parents. They're not submitted to the authority under their older brothers. They're living their life their way, doing whatever they want, and they really are under the devil, and they really are going their own way in their ego, and they're really all obsessed about their own five senses and doing whatever it is that their desires are for the moment. And it's so slight, and we look at it like, oh, you're going to grow up, you'll figure it out. And then I think okay, just another, like, fast forward just a little bit more is, I'm going to actually stop here and then I'll pick up another video to go forward. Thanks for listening, everybody, about, being under man's authority and being under God's authority. And again, the summary is be under Lord God's authority and under Jesus Yeshua's authority, and make that your priority authority, and under the authority of the Holy Spirit that's guiding you to be under God the Father's authority and to be under Jesus' son's authority, and to be in compliance and be in obedience. That is the way, and the desired way. And that, unless the men in our life and the women in our life who are above us and have authority over us, if they're out of alignment in any way, then we're going to fall down in the pit, because they're not, they're not encouraging us to go in the correct direction. All right, I'm going to stop here and I'll pick up again.